Dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All worship of Prabhupada and Gurudev. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 17, Mother Parvati causes Chitraketu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namastutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtake. Text 31. Persons engaged in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Krishna have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress for this world. Text 32. Neither I, Lord Shiva, nor Brahma, nor the Ashwini Kumaras, nor Narada, or the other great sages who are Brahma's sons, nor even the demigods can understand the pastimes and personality of the Supreme Lord. Although we are part of the Supreme Lord, we consider ourselves independent, separate controllers, and thus we cannot understand his identity. Text 33. He holds no one as very dear and no one as inimica. He has no one for his own relatives and no one is alien to him. He is actually the soul of all living entities. Thus, he is the auspicious friend of all living beings and is very near and dear to all of them. Text 34 to 35. This magnanimous Chitraketu is a dear devotee of the Lord. He is equal to all living entities and is free from attachment and hatred. Similarly, I am also very dear to Lord Narayana. Therefore, no one should be astonished to see the activities of the most exalted devotees of Narayana, for they are free from detachment and envy. They are always peaceful and they are equal to everyone. 36. Said, O king, after hearing this speech by her husband, the demigoddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her astonishment at the behavior of the king Chitraketu and became steady in intelligence. Text 37. The great devotee Chitraketu was so powerful that he can quite competent to curse Mother Parvati in retaliation. But instead of doing so, he very humbly accepted the curse and bowed his head before Lord Shiva and his wife. This is very much to be appreciated as the standard behavior of a Vaishnava. Text 38. Being cursed by Mother Durga, Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, that same Chitraketu accepted birth in a demonic species of life. Although still fully equipped with transcendental knowledge and practical application of that knowledge in life, he appeared as a demon at the fire sacrifice performed by Tasta, and thus he became famous as Vatrasura. Text 39. My dear King Parikshit, you inquired from me how Vritrasura, a great devotee, took birth in a demoniac family. Thus I have tried to explain to you everything about this. Text 40. Chitraketu was a great devotee, Mahatma. If one hears his history of Chitraketu from a pure devotee, the listener also is free from the conditional life of material existence. Text 41. One who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of Chitraketu, controlling his words and mind and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will return home back to Godhead without difficulty. Thus ends the chapter 17 of Canto 6 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thanks so much, Prasanthi Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Krishna and Prabhu, you can start when you're ready, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving this opportunity to purify for myself. And thank you, Prashanti Mataji, for reading today's Bhagavatam section slokas translations. So we'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Dinamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatto Deshatarani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu, Slokas 31 to 41. So just to give a background, we are in the section of Chitraketu Maharaj. So in the last chapter we heard, after Chitraketu Maharaj heard from his dead son, who was brought back to the life by Narada Muni, about when he heard about from his dead son about the truth of the life, then Chitraketu Maharaj was relieved from his lamentation, and he understood the value of the life. Then at that perfect time, the great sage Narada Muni, he gave the mantra to chant sincerely and seriously. And due to that, he got the darshan of Lord Sankrishna. And we heard about the beautiful discussions, the prayers of Chitraketu Maharaj to Lord Sankrishna, and Lord Sankrishna's gave the spiritual knowledge to the Chitraketu Maharaj, like that. And in this chapter, so far we heard that Chitraketu Maharaj, after he heard from Supreme Lord, sorry. So after Chitraketu Maharaj got the darshan of Supreme Lord Sankarshana, so he started enjoying the life in the aeroplane with the Vidyadhara planet, accompanied by so many women, but engaged in the congregational chanting and glories of the Lord. So he began flying in his aeroplane, traveling the outer space. So at one time, while he was wandering like that, he came to the Sumera mountain, where he saw Lord Shiva embracing Mother Parvati Devi, surrounded by an assembly of Siddhas, Charanas, and sages, like that. And seeing that Lord Shiva embracing Mother Parvati Devi, Chitraketu Maharaj laughed very loudly. So, and then Parvati became very angry, and he cursed him to become as the demon, so who is appeared as a Urutrasura. Of course, Chitraketu Maharaj, after hearing the curse, so he was not at all afraid, but then he came down from his airplane to Mother Parvati and offered his obeisances. Then he spoke that, whatever the actions that are happening, so no one is responsible for his happiness or distress, and one enjoys the happiness or distress according to their past deeds. So like that, so he spoke the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and then Chitraketu Maharaj apologized to Mother Parvati, and also mentioned that so whatever he spoke, he seems to be appropriate for him, but if something is wrong in the eyes of Mother Parvati, then she can forgive him, like that. And then he left, Chitraketu Maharaj left that. So after he spoke like that, without any lamentation or any fear or any distress, so all the members in that great assembly, including Mother Parvati, they were astonished to see that. So then Lord Shiva began speaking about the devotees of the Lord to Mother Parvati. So that's what we are in that section, and we'll continue that from the slokas 31 to end of the chapter 41. So in 31, we see that persons who is engaged in the devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, so they naturally have the perfect knowledge and detachment. So therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress of this world. So this is a very enlightening point that Lord Shiva is mentioning. So when one engages in the devotional service, what happens? Two things will happen. So it's mentioned that they are situated in the perfect knowledge. So the knowledge will come, and also the detachment. So these both will be developed, knowledge and detachment, jnana and vairagya. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a devotee doesn't need to cultivate knowledge to understand the temporary existence of this material world. And also he doesn't need to acquire the knowledge to understand this material world is dukkhalaya, so suffering. So because of his unalloyed devotion, so deep devotion to Lord Vasudeva, so the knowledge and the detachment are automatically manifested. And Prabhupada also quotes Bhagavatam, another section of the sloka, saying that Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayate Asu Vairagyam Gnanam Chayad Ahaitikam. So one who engaged in the devotional service of Supreme Lord Krishna, so immediately he acquires the knowledge and detachment from this world. So he acquires the knowledge and also detachment from this material world. So and since the knowledge comes automatically when one is in the when one is situated in the devotional service, so it is possible for him to be detached from this material world because he understands this material world is temporary and full of miseries like that. So, but others who are situated in other kind of yogas or who are not into the process of bhakti yoga, like Mayavadis or Jnanis, so they will not be able to understand this real knowledge. So why? Because they haven't taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada quotes Bhagavatam 10th Canto, chapter 232 sloka, saying that Ye Anya Aravindaksha Vimuktamaninas, because they haven't taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So they will not have this perfect knowledge. And even with their severe austerities, if they have achieved to the higher planetary systems or even up to the Brahma Jyoti, Aruhya Kruchyena Param Padam Tataha Patante Adho Anadrita Yusma Danangraha. Like they will fall down from that place, that elevated position, because they haven't taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord like that. So this is the power of the devotional service. So they will be situated in the perfect knowledge, and also they are detached from this material world, so that it becomes appropriate, or they are perfectly qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. So where they can escape all these material sufferings. So in the text 32, so Lord Shiva is mentioning that either himself, nor Brahma, or Aswini Kumaras, or Narada, so all these great sages, or even the demigods, they cannot understand the pastimes and the personality of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because although they are part of the Supreme Lord, because they consider ourselves like themselves the independent, the separate controllers. So that's why we cannot understand his identity. So of course, Lord Shiva here, so is being very humble, is placing himself as a non-devotee, or not a pure devotee like that. But we understand from the scriptures that so he's a Vaishnavana Matha symbol, like a pure devotee. But here he himself is placing himself as a not very pure devotee, but being a very humble. And Prabhupada also mentions that Lord Shiva is not an ordinary human being. So, and even he himself is mentioning that he cannot be able to understand the Supreme Lord completely, whether his pastimes are about him. So then what to speak of a fallen soul like me? Like, it is very difficult to understand, because Krishna is the original person, is the beginningless, and he expands into unlimited forms. So it's very difficult for anyone to understand Krishna. So only the devotees who are completely taken shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, for them Krishna reveals about himself or about his pastimes or about his name, form, qualities like that. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So only the devotees can be able to understand, but not the others. So if somebody thinks that Jnanis thinks that, through the mental speculation or by reading the scriptures, if they can able to understand, so it's not possible. That's what Lord Brahma mentions in the Brahma Samhita, saying that Vedeshu Durlabham. So just by reading the Vedas, if one thinks that one can be able to understand, that's not possible. But Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. So Krishna will reveal himself only to the devotees who has surrendered to him. So here Lord Shiva is glorifying the process of Bhakti Yoga and the devotees. And here in text 33, Lord Shiva is mentioning about the Supreme Lord that so he is very dear and no one is very dear and no one is inimical. And he has no one for his own relative and no one is alien to him. And he is the soul of all living entities. Thus he is the auspicious friend of all living beings and very near and dear to all of them. Of course, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so we are all very dear to Krishna, because in the original state, so we are a pure spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. So that's why so we are all very dear to Krishna. So there is no question of enmity between us and Supreme Lord Krishna when we are situated in our original state. But since we are into this material world, due to the influence of the three modes, so all these kind of relationships are coming, one is inimical, one is very dear, one is we think like that. But Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that is equal to everyone. Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priya. Like you say that I doesn't envy anyone or I am not partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. Samoham sarva bhuteshu, equal to everyone. So similarly, this process of Bhakti Yoga is also available to everyone and anyone. So whoever takes up this Krishna consciousness sincerely and seriously, so they will situate in their original condition, like a pure spirit soul. They will realize that and they will become very near and dear to Krishna. So in the next sloka, 34 to 35, so here Lord Shiva is mentioning that so the Chitraketu Maharaj is very dear to the Lord and equal to all living entities and free from attachment and hatred. So similarly, he is also very dear to Lord Narayan. So, and is another thing is mentioning Lord Shiva that no one should be astonished to see the activities of the most exalted devotees of Narayana, because they are free from attachment and envy, and they are always very peaceful and equal to everyone. And Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that so how we saw in the earlier sloka that we cannot understand the Supreme Lord. So similarly, so it is difficult to understand even the activities of the devotees. And in the song it is mentioned that Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigneha Na Bhujiya, like so it is very difficult to understand even the activities of the devotees. So that's why one should not be astonished to see the activities of exalted or misunderstand their activities, thinking that they are ordinary. Like we saw in the example of Durvas Mahamuni. So he thought Amarish Maharaj is an ordinary human being like that. And he thought he mistook like that, and then he wanted to punish him. But then later we saw that, how, because Amarish Maharaj is very dear devotee to the Supreme Lord, so Supreme Lord protected him. So similar like that, how Durvas Mahamuni misunderstood Amarish Maharaj as the ordinary human being. So similarly, it may be possible for the people to be misunderstood the activities of the devotees. So how one cannot be able to understand the Supreme Lord's activities. But the devotees are very dear to Krishna. So he said very dear to Lord Narayana. So Krishna mentions that Samoham Sarvabhutesh is equal to everyone. So in the same sloka, he says that Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham, like this. Whoever renders service to Supreme Lord Krishna, so is very dear friend to Supreme Lord Krishna. So he is friend to the dear friend to the devotee, and also the devotee is very dear to the Krishna, like that. So Prabhupada mentions that so from here even in this sloka also we see that the devotees are very dear to Krishna. So Chitraketu Maharaj is very dear to Krishna, and also the Lord Shiva is very dear to the Supreme Lord Krishna, because they are great devotees of the Supreme Lord. And from this, Lord Shiva is mentioning that because they both are very dear to the Lord Krishna, and they both are very good friends. So they are because they are both in the same level. Chitraketu Maharaj and Lord Shiva both are in the same level. So they are considered as the good friends. So in between the good friends, there could be sometimes they joke with some funny words like that. So here Lord Shiva is pointing to Mother Parvati that Chitraketu Maharaj laughing loudly, seeing his behavior. So he did it on a friendly manner. So because they both are on the same level and considered as a good friends. So for that, so one should not be astonished, and there is no reason to curse him like that. So Lord Shiva is trying to convince Mother Parvati, or explaining Mother Parvati, that her cursing to Chitraketu Maharaj is not appropriate. Chitraketu Maharaj can say to Lord Shiva that or laugh loudly at Lord Shiva, seeing Lord Shiva embracing Mother Parvati Devi. Similarly, Lord Shiva can also point Chitraketu Maharaj because he is traveling outer space along with many women. So because they are very close friends, so in between the friends, so those kind of statements are appropriate. But of course, only thing here is Chitraketu Maharaj laughed loudly at Lord Shiva. So in an assembly like that, which Mother Parvati took it as an offensive. But Lord Shiva did not felt like that. And of course, this is all arranged by the Supreme Lord Krishna, Lord Sankarshna, that he wanted to bring Chitraketu Maharaj back to the spiritual world in his association. So he performed all this wonderful pastime, and in that pastime, Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, all the assembly, the great sages in the assembly, they're all acting as an instrument, so that Chitraketu Maharaj can go back to Godhead. Also, Chitraketu Maharaj has little pride, very slight, because he got darshan of the Supreme Lord Sankarshna like that. So with this pastime, Lord Sankarshna, the Supreme Lord, wanted to destroy that pride and also bring him back to the spiritual world in his association. So Krishna, when he sees even little pride in the devotees' behavior, then he will immediately wanted to protect from that and also bring back home to the spiritual world. So we saw in the case of Indra also, when he was puffed up because of his opulence, Lord Krishna arranged a pastime of lifting Govardhana pastime, where he crushed the pride of the Indra. So similarly, Lord Sankarshna arranged this pastime. So he wanted to bring this pure devotee Chitraketu Maharaj back to the spiritual world like that. And in the text 36, Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning that to Parikshit Maharaj that after hearing this speech by her husband, the demigoddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her astonishment at the behavior of King Chitraketu and became steady in intelligence. So now Mother Parvati Devi understood the activity of Chitraketu Maharaj, which is appropriate, and she gave up her astonishment. And then she became steady in intelligence and Shantadihi, like she became peaceful. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that she also remembered the behavior of her own behavior in cursing Chitraketu Maharaj. So by remembering that, she became a little bit ashamed and covered her face and admitting that she did a inappropriate activity in cursing Chitraketu Maharaj like that. Of course, we understand that this all pastime is arranged by Lord Sankarshna, and where Mother Parvati Devi and Lord Shiva, so everyone is became an instrument in the hands of Lord Sankarshana in this pastime, so that Chitraketu Maharaj can go back home, back to Godhead. And then in text 37, so the great devotee Chitraketu was so powerful that he was quite competent to curse Mother Parvati, but instead of doing so, he was very humbly accepted the curse and bowed his head before Lord Shiva. And here Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning that this is very much appreciated as the standard behavior of Vaishnava. So here we see that these exalted devotees, their exalted qualities are the behavior, the humbleness of the Vaishnavas, like the exalted devotees. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Chitraketu Maharaj was so exalted in his character. So in spite, he understands that he is inappropriately or wrongly cursed by Mother Parvati, but he did not took it as an offense. Like he immediately descended from his aeroplane and bowed his head to at the lotus feet of Mother Parvati and accepted the curse. So he took it sportly. So he said he thought that so he felt like Mother Parvati wanted to curse him, so let it be. So and then he accepted the curse just to please Mother Parvati. And this is mentioned in the sloka as sadhu lakshana. So the characteristics of a sadhu, a devotee. Because a devotee, so he's not concerned about where he will be placed. So whether it's a demon life or demigod life or even in the previous section. So one of the sloka Lord Shiva mentions that Swarga Pavarga Narakesha Api Tulya Darshana. So a devotee, even when he is placed in hellish planet or heavenly planet or in the spiritual world, so he looks everything in the equal manner. So he's not concerned, he's not afraid like that. Because wherever he goes, so he's busy with the devotional activities. So Prabhupada also gives an example like typewriting machine. So in whichever country we take the typewriting machine, so it will when we type it, it will say tick 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 like that. So similarly, so the devotee also, so wherever he is placed, so he is always engaged in the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So like that. So that's why he is not concerned, and his qualities are mentioned here. He's very humble, and he tries to please all other Vaishnavas by serving them like that. So this is the qualities that as a practicing devotee one can strive for it. So try to rise these qualities like that. And in the text 38, so being cursed by Mother Durga, so the same Chitraketu accepted birth in the demonic species of life. Although still fully occupied with the transcendental knowledge and practical application of that knowledge in life, he appeared as a demon at the fire sacrifice performed by Twasta. So in the last section, not in the earlier chapters, we heard, so when Twasta performed the great sacrifice, intending to kill Indra, so of course he pronounced incorrectly. So instead of killing Indra, so a person is appeared who can be killed by Indra. So that is the Vritrasura. So who is the Chitraketu Maharaj in the past life. But here Prabhupada highlights that Chitraketu Maharaj, even though he took the demonic species life, but he still fully equipped with transcendental knowledge and practical application of that knowledge in life. So Jnana Vijnana Samyukta like that. And Prabhupada mentions that this shows that so this is one of the example we can see that accidentally, if a devotee does a mistake and he falls down from the path of bhakti, so he's not completely lost. And Prabhupada also quotes sloka from Bhagavatam that yatra kwa va bhadram abud amushyakim ko varta apto abhajatam swadharmataha. Like the translation goes like that, saying that one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down, but there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. And in fact, even if one progress little bit in this path of bhakti, So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that they are saved from the big danger. Swalpamapasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. So neha abhikramanastosthi pratyavyavayo na vidyati. Like, first of all, there is no loss or diminution in this path of bhakti progress. Whatever we done in this devotional service, it is eternal credit for us. And on top of that, even if we do little bit service in this path of bhakti or advancement in the path of bhakti, so it will protect us from the big danger. So we see in the case of Ajamila also, like, he chanted the Lord Narayana's holy name, and he saved from the clutches of the Yamadutas. Not only that, he has given another chance so that to perfect his human life. And with that, he went back home, back to Godhead. So even a devotee does a mistake and falls down, so he's not completely lost. But in other situations, like in a karmi or a person who is working very hard to acquire money, wealth, name, and fame, like that. So if he has, once he left the body, so nothing will come. So everything is gone like that. And Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita that so a person who progresses in the path of bhakti in this yoga process, so even if he has not completely finished in this life, but is placed in the next life in the devotee family or in the rich family, so that he can start where he left. Suchinam Srimate Gehe Yoga Brashto Abhijayate, like that. So there is no loss or diminution in the path of bhakti. So how much we can do, so that is all eternal credit. Of course, Prabhupada stresses that so if we can sincerely and seriously practice this one life, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. So then with that, we don't need to come back into this material world, or we don't need to take another material body and go through the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi or suffering like that. So in the text 39, Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning to Maharaj Parishit that, so you inquired from me how Vritrasura, a great devotee, took birth in a demonic family. So thus I have tried to explain to you everything about this. So if we remember in the earlier chapter, so Maharaj Parikshita, looking at Vritrasura's great qualities of a devotee, he was surprised. He was wondered, because generally the demons are sinful, and they are equipped with the mode of ignorance, so tamasa. So then how this Vritrasura exhibiting the great qualities of a devotee, so much love for the Supreme Lord. So even demigods who are situated in the mode of goodness, so sometimes, or many of them, they may not have this pure devotion service, but we see that Vritrasura has a great love for Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So seeing that great devotional qualities of Vritrasura, Parikshit Maharaj was astonished. So he inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, so how he got these great devotee qualities like that. So for that, Sukadeva Goswami narrated Vritrasura's previous life as Chitraketu Maharaj, and how he became a great devotee like that. So the whole pastime that we heard earlier. In the text 40, Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning that Chitraketu was a great devotee, Mahatma. So if one hears this history of Chitraketu from a pure devotee, so the listener also freed from the conditional life of material existence. So this is the credit for listening this history of this great devotee, Chitraketu Maharaj. And of course, here Prabhupada stresses one point, that hearing from a pure devotee. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so all these pastimes of Supreme Lord are the devotees, the pastimes of devotees, the histories of these great exalted devotees that are mentioned in the scriptures should be heard from the pure devotee, or from the devotees, not from the non-devotees, because non-devotees may misunderstood the essence of these pastimes. So they may probably explain in an incorrect manner that would lead us in a wrong direction. So that's why it is very important to listen from the devotees, so that they can give the appropriate or the perfect essence, so that we can be inspired and progress in the path of bhakti and perfect our life. Not from a professional reciter who can sing nicely or narrate like that. And Prabhupada quotes sloka from Padma Purana saying that Avaishna Mukodgirnam Putam Harikatamritam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpochistitam Yatapayaha. Like that, how a milk touched by the serpent becomes poisonous. So similarly, when we hear from the non-devotees this Krishna Katha, so that will not have much effect for us. So that's why it's very important to be for us to be in the association with the devotees and listen from them. And in the text 41, the last sloka for today, so this is the credit for listening these great pastimes. So one who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of Chitraketu, controlling his words and mind, remembering the Supreme Lord, so will return home back to Godhead without difficulty. So Paramam Gatim, like, you know, so we'll go back home back to Godhead when we hear these stories of the history of these great devotees like Chitraketu Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. So every day, Nityam Bhagavata Savaya. So then we'll become purified and then we'll be eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. So we'll take this human life, this opportunity, and try to spend in the Krishna consciousness as best as we can and go back home, back to God. So thank you all for giving this opportunity. I'll pause it here. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Krishna.